getting back to my roots, I started out as playing classical music on the piano, growing up in New York and having classical piano lessons at the Manhattan School of Music for 4 years on Saturdays, piano lessons and music theory class. And one of the things that I didn't like, I really didn't like playing the music of Bach, because I remember even trying the first invention. I'm in the wrong octave. If you play it slowly, if you can't read that well, it's like all dissonances. It's like, oh, I don't like this music. Of course, if you play well, it's beautiful. But I didn't really get to like Bach until I actually played it on the pipe organ when I was 14 years old. I went to a private school in Brooklyn for high school, actually starting in 7th grade, that had a beautiful pipe organ there. And we had to go to chapel 2 mornings a week and sing hymns, Protestant hymns. So, like Felix Mendelssohn, I know this one. A Mighty Fortress, Ein feste Burg, a Mighty Fortress. Mendelssohn wrote that as one of the movements in his Reformation Symphony. And I know the words to tons of Protestant hymns, as well as the Lord's Prayer. I could recite the thing to you right now, the whole thing, if you want. And the school was 1/3 Jewish, so the people who ran the school were sensitive about it, and they said, all right, we'll try not to have any hymns that say Jesus Christ in them, because this might offend some of the Jewish students, so they picked ones with more generic lyrics. The praising God,
Yeah.
and about how God is the force for good and fights evil, like Ein feste Burg, So I got turned on to Bach, playing the pipe organ, and played, and some of that music is like wild gypsy music. I mean, it didn't sound at all like the wilder gypsy part of Bach. Because Bach was multidimensional, man. He, had all this mathematical stuff, and later, of course, I got to love the piano music, which was written for harpsichord, of course. But the pipe organ is what really turned me on to Bach. And my favorite piece that I played was the Passacaglia in C minor. It has a ground bass. It's just like. It's in 3. Anyway, it keeps going, and it's in the slow 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And it's all offset. 1, 2, 3. And there's all these great variations on it. It's really beautiful. And then there's a fugue that's like from another universe, But I started playing it when I was 14, and I always loved it. And that part is played with your feet, by the way.
Oh.
There's a whole row of foot pedals. So it's boom, da, da, and you play with your feet with the heel and the toe, and you move around. And
Wow.
the interesting thing is that Bach's music, and including the organ music, fell out of fashion in Germany and in Europe in general, and it was revived by Felix Mendelssohn, who was a great organist as well as great everything else. And a true wandering Jew. I mean, he wrote symphonies in Scotland and Italy. He traveled a lot. He was from a very wealthy family. His father was a very rich banker, but his grandfather was a Jewish scholar, Moses Mendelssohn. So Mendelssohn's father often said, I'm the forgotten Mendelssohn. No one's going to remember who I was. Because Felix was writing symphonies when he was like 11 or 12, and his father would hire orchestras to come to the house and play the symphonies to see what they sounded like.
Wow.
But Mendelssohn discovered Bach's organ music and said, this is some of the greatest stuff I've ever heard. And he had these big concerts in Bach's church in Leipzig. And people flipped out because they hadn't heard this music in so long and didn't realize how great it was. Because Bach was thought as being outmoded, and all these parts that had to be played instead of like a melody with some chords, like more of the classical tradition instead of the Baroque thing. And people said, boy, were we wrong? This is amazing. And so Mendelssohn revived the music. And so while I was on tour with Rabbi, I got to play in Leipzig, and I visited Bach's church.
Wow.
And believe it or not, a drum student of Glenn Velez from Trio Globo, student Michael, I can't remember his last name, who I had met in New York, lived in Leipzig. And we hung out, and he said the next morning, let me take you over to Bach's church. So we went to the Thomaskirche, and I saw obviously the organ's been restored and replaced. I didn't get to play it, unfortunately. But the acoustics were extremely clear and clean, and not cavernous like a giant cathedral would be. And I was very interested to learn that all of Bach's music could have definitely been heard in all its complexity in that room, where he was the organist and the church cantor for 20 years. At least that long. I don't remember, maybe longer. And so if I had been able to stick around, Michael was friends with the church cantor, and he said that every cantor, which is the same word as Jewish, it's interesting, the person who leads the music, leaves something of his behind as part of the thing, and Bach left his baton. He said, if you can stay until 1 o'clock, my friend will come and you can hold Bach's baton. And I was like, oh man. I called Rabbi, is there any way we can stay? He says, no, we have to leave at 11:30 or something. Oh, please. No, we have to make sound check in the next town. It's like, oh. But
Close,
but no cigar. But I also discovered other things about Bach, thanks to Michael. And there was a cafe across the street from the church where Bach loved drinking coffee, and he would sit and write his manuscripts, drinking coffee, and sometimes put on little concerts in the cafe with his friends. So all of these guys, these classical people, they come to life when you visit where they're from. And you realize you have a lot more in common with them than you thought. There's much more in common than there are differences. They were improvisers. Bach, you could whistle a tune and he could improvise on it for an hour and a half, make up fugues and canons on it. That's why when Charlie Parker said that, I found out that what the Cats were jamming then already had been put down, and in most cases a lot better. That's what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And so I got the idea much later to combine the idea of the samba trace and the Bach Passacaglia. So I did this with it. I'd like to close with, I hope the harmonicas are working, with this blues treatment, blues gospel-y treatment that I did of Bach's, the Adagio, the Largo e Dolce second slow movement from the B minor flute sonata. It's really beautiful, and the thing about it is that the first 6 notes of the melody are, which is like a blues lick, like Little Walter off the wall. And I heard this thing, and it's usually played like that. But I thought, man, there's some blues in here. And so I studied the piece and it got inside it, and then tried to put myself inside it, and so that what come out was a combination of me and Bach and me with this blues gospel filter, you know. So I laid down a track on piano, and then I overdubbed the harmonica. And so I'm going to live overdub the harmonica to my piano track right now.
Nice.
We hope you enjoyed Season 2 of Neranenah Scholars, and that you'll stay tuned for information on Season 3. As a nonprofit, we can only afford to put on great programming like this thanks to your support. Please visit neranenahArts.org for more information and to learn how to get involved.